On the 40th anniversary of Earth Day, with events worldwide, we hear from one of the original founders. Energy derivatives come under the microscope as President Obama heads to New York City to continue his crusade for greater oversight. And the oil rig that exploded in the Gulf of Mexico has collapsed and sunk.
From the Energy News Center in Washington, D.C., this is the Energy Report with Susan McGinnis.
Good afternoon. I'm Susan McGinnis. Thanks for joining us for the Energy Report. In 1970, Earth Day was born, a nascent movement to spread awareness of environmental issues. Well, 4 decades later, more than 1 billion people worldwide participate. On the National Mall, artists, along with environmentalists, religious civil rights, and political leaders, including Interior Secretary Ken Salazar, rallied for environmental stewardship. Salazar welcomed students from around the nation to promote outdoor activities and preserve national parks. Since 1970, national smog levels have dropped by about 1/4, and lead levels in the air are down more than 90%. But since the first Earth Day, carbon dioxide levels in the air have increased 19%. Clean Skies talked with the national coordinator of the first Earth Day, Dennis Hayes, on how the event has evolved.
And it was sort of like a flywheel. It had its own momentum. I actually slightly tried to stop it in 1971 because I knew it couldn't be as big as 1970, and the media would say, well, the bloom is off the rose, the environmental movement's fading. But it kept on going, and then when we jumped in particularly in 1990 and started putting resources to it and addressing the big global issues, the ones that transcend national borders, like climate change and threats to the world's oceans and the population issue and the epidemic of extinction going around the planet, then it began to swell into this big annual event.
You can see the full interview with Dennis Hayes here on the website. President Obama is putting his official stamp on the day in a statement from the Rose Garden this afternoon. In his Earth Day proclamation, the president recalls the first Earth Day and says his administration has worked to build on the landmark legislation that it inspired, including the Clean Air and Clean Water Acts. He also called on Americans to carry on Earth Day's cause. The president says the 40th anniversary of Earth Day is an opportunity for us to reflect on the legacy we've inherited from previous generations and the legacy we will bestow upon generations to come. Their future depends on the action we take now, and we must not fail them. The big Earth Day celebrations on Washington's National Mall are in full swing. They culminate Sunday with a rally featuring speeches from the Reverend Jesse Jackson, also film director James Cameron, and musicians including Sting, John Legend, Jimmy Cliff, and Bob Weir. The president is also focusing on financial reform, taking his bid to the financial heartland. The president spoke at Cooper Union in New York City today, just 2 miles from Wall Street, to make his case for limiting the bank speculation that is blamed for huge energy price swings in 2008. He said Congress must regulate these murky derivatives markets and bring their trading into the open.
There is a legitimate role for these financial instruments in our economy. They can help allay risk and spur investment. And there are a lot of companies that use these instruments to that legitimate end. They are managing exposure to fluctuating prices or currencies, fluctuating markets. For example, a business might hedge against rising oil prices by buying a financial product to secure stable fuel costs. So an airlines might have an interest in locking in a decent price. That's how markets are supposed to work. The problem is these markets operated in the shadows of our economy, invisible to regulators, invisible to the public. So reckless practices were rampant, risks accrued until they threatened our entire financial system.
The Senate Agriculture Committee has passed a measure limiting banks' roles in derivatives trading and requiring that transactions be made in open forums like an exchange. It's more sweeping than both a House-passed plan and administration proposals and could become part of the Senate financial overhaul bill. Republican leaders have warned the bill would enable more bailouts, but they add they want bipartisan talks on the bills to continue. Mine safety officials made surprise inspections of 57 mines over the weekend. This crackdown follows the accident that killed 29 miners at the Upper Big Branch mine in West Virginia. 275 federal inspectors were sent to 23 mines in West Virginia, 14 in Kentucky, 8 of those belonging to Massey Energy, the operator of Big Branch. The administration is not saying how many problems were found, but it did say it shows mines with a history of serious violations and focused on rules covering methane, ventilation, and efforts to control coal dust. All this as Massey Energy's CEO went to Wall Street today to try to reassure investors the company can recover from this disaster. Don Blankenship told analysts the explosion was not caused by disregard for safety regulations. More lawsuits have been filed on behalf of victims and shareholders. Massey's board has announced it will stick with Blankenship as CEO amid calls for his resignation. Well, the massive oil rig that exploded off the Gulf of Mexico this past week has now sunk. The Coast Guard says the Deepwater Horizon plunged into the water this afternoon, nearly a day after bursting into flames. The rig is about twice the size of a football field. The operator, Transocean, says of 126 workers aboard, 111 made it safely to shore. 17 are being treated for injuries. 4 remain in a boat that operates an underwater robot. And that robot is going to be used to shut off the oil flow underwater. Coast Guard says rescue crews have repeatedly covered the 1,900 square mile search area by air and by boat. The exact cause of the explosion is still under investigation. Natural gas prices shot up more than 4% today after the government reported storage levels expanded less than was expected. EIA says inventories grew by 73 billion cubic feet to about 1.83 trillion cubic feet last week. Analysts were looking for a build of up to 80 billion. PFG Best analyst Phil Flynn says with recent mild weather and rising rig counts, the news caught the market by surprise. Natural gas closed the day up 17 cents at $4.13 per thousand cubic feet. Oil ended at $83.74 a barrel, up 6 cents. Well, the issue of climate change has largely divided Republicans and Democrats on Capitol Hill. But a new survey out today shows conservative states actually want a change in energy policy that favors renewable energy. Public opinion strategies polled residents in Alaska, Florida, Iowa, Idaho, and Virginia, and find Republicans say they're interested in seeing major changes to the nation's energy system. But the survey says that change needs to be more cost effective. It says a clean energy refund has the best potential to attract Republican support. Republicans seem to want a new energy sector that relies less on government support and more on private innovation. The Coca-Cola bottling company of Southern California has opened its first LEED certified Coke facility in North America. This $7 million distribution center in Coachella, California was built with recycled materials. It has solar panels, native plant landscaping, and 100% stormwater retention systems. Let's take a look now at some energy goings-on around the Beltway tomorrow. 9 a.m., New America Foundation sponsors a panel discussion of what is next for clean tech after the stimulus money runs out. That's at the Capitol Visitor Center. At 10 a.m., Ford will be showcasing its battery electric hybrid and plug-in hybrid vehicles and advanced fuel-efficient technologies on the National Mall as part of the 40th anniversary celebration of Earth Day. And at 11, EESI and CCS hold a briefing in Dirksen on the impacts of greenhouse gas policy options on the U.S. economy. That's the Energy Report. We'll see you again tomorrow with your latest energy news. For any suggestions or comments about our programming here on Clean Skies News, we want to hear from you. You can reach us at contact@cleanskies.com. You can also follow us on Twitter and Facebook, too. From all of us here in the Energy News Center, have a great day.